Years of my professional career working in war zones, and I am still shell-shocked when I see these photos. It is a shocking testimony to what happened, and I wish also on behalf of Human Rights Watch to thank you, Callum, and your colleagues for pulling this together and for keeping the discussion going. You are not alone in having documented war crimes in Sri Lanka by both sides to this conflict. All of us who are sitting on this panel have brought to the public domain comprehensive and substantively researched reports documenting very serious war crimes, even crimes against humanity in this conflict. And again, by both sides, but with the lion's share on the part of the government. But it's not just us up here on this panel who have documented these crimes. So have also an expert group appointed by the Secretary General of the United Nations. You heard some of their findings mentioned in this film. Also, this expert group recommended and called for the urgent establishment of an international commission of inquiry to, on an international, independent, and impartial basis, establish the truth, and where possible, identify those responsible for serious crimes and seek justice for these crimes. And again, that UN body is not alone in having made that recommendation either. The High Commissioner for Human Rights has repeatedly called for the establishment of an international impartial investigation into these crimes. And here we are, 4 years later, and it is still not happening. But what is even worse is that impunity is still the rule of the game in Sri Lanka. And what is equally important, and why we're sitting here, is that the government of Sri Lanka has done nothing but lying and deceiving. It has done nothing but to set up sham mechanisms and procedures that have only been set up not to produce justice, not to produce the truth about crimes, not to relieve victims in any way or to prosecute abusers, but simply to keep everybody busy pretending that something is at least happening. Well, now we also have the result of one of those mechanisms, namely the military's own Army Court of Inquiry, that on February 15th issued a report completely exonerating the army for any wrongdoing whatsoever. No civilians were killed at the hands of Sri Lankan forces. That was the conclusion. It is a lie, and it needs now to be investigated by an international body. So in March, the UN Human Rights Commission once again set up, you could say, sort of a placeholder mechanism, at least to keep Sri Lanka on the agenda of the UN, because otherwise it wouldn't even be. Now, the High Commissioner has been asked to submit her interim report already in September and then a full report in March next year. All of us sitting on this panel today, we agree that when those reports are submitted, and if continued impunity and no serious investigations will be the rule of the game in Sri Lanka, then in March, come next year, there needs to be an international inquiry, and by then, 5 years after the fact. So what can the European Union do? It can first and foremost, let me say what the European Union cannot do, and what this Parliament should not do, and that is to forget, and to ignore, and to say that let time pass and everything will be fine. As we have also heard here today, the human rights situation in Sri Lanka is not fine. The national and the domestic truth tellers are under enormous pressure and are being prosecuted and are being silenced, and some are even being forced to flee the country. That is unacceptable. And the European Union and the privileged European Parliament have to commit itself to maintain pressure and to work with international allies to see to it that there will be an international inquiry and there will be the truth established on an impartial basis that will hopefully in time then bring justice for these crimes. So, I'm sorry I'm losing my voice. It's not because I'm sort of losing it. It's just the voice that is going. So that is what we have to do. And we expect that this parliament that has not been particularly strong, we have great respect for many parliamentarians who have sort of held the flag, but the parliament collectively has not done enough and has definitely not let its voice be heard in a strong enough way. And it is time also for you committed parliamentarians, and Anna, you're definitely one of them, to rally your allies, your party colleagues, and to make sure that this parliament will not fail also in its obligation not to forget, and also to exert the necessary pressure on our 27, come soon, plus 1, 28 EU member states, and to make sure that they will, together with allies, set up that inquiry. Victims deserve the truth. The families and the survivors deserve justice. It was said that in order to achieve sustainable peace, we need justice. That is true. But justice in and of itself is also what is important and what is the moral right thing to do. So let me end there, and we can then start the discussion. So thank you very much.
Thank you all, and thank you for keeping in the time frame that was